Welcome back for another exciting episode of Building Games with Construct 2. So I just got done doing a video on arrays, so how to put stuff into an array, how to iterate through each element of an array. And another question that I find a lot is how to read data from a text file into an array. So instead of manually adding each line, each item to an array, you can put stuff in a text file, read from it, and then kind of iterate through the things in the text file to input them into the array. So it's pretty helpful and pretty powerful. Contact information is on here as always. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, comment below in the YouTube video or find me on Twitter at JamesQQuick. I'm going to pop over to Construct 2. In here, I've got a blank layout except for a thing I call feedback text. That's where I can kind of display some stuff if I want to. So to be able to go out and request things from a file, we actually have to add a file here. So let me go out and import a text file. And I've got one on my desktop that's it's just blank. So it's called data.txt. And I'm going to open this up. And our array right now, if we look at the array, it's I'm going to make this a one-dimensional array. So 10 by 1, so I need 10 items to put in my array. So let me get this text file. I'm going to do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So just 10 numbers in here, and I'm separating each of these by a semicolon in addition to a return character, because return characters can take different forms depending on the text editor that you use. So I've played around with this a bit, and this is better than just using a return character. It's a little safer. So after I save this file, we have the file here, but how do we actually go out and read from that file? So to do that, we need to come in to our layout and add the Ajax object. And as it says on here, Ajax lets you request and receive other web pages. So you can do web pages or local files, which is really helpful. So in our event sheet on the starter layout, I'm going to use this Ajax object to request a project file. And we're going to do a tag here, and we'll see what this tag is for a second, but let's just call it read data. And we want to read from the file data.txt. So Ajax goes out and makes requests to read from file. This could be local files, or they could be something stored on the server somewhere. So we don't really know how long the Ajax object is going to be working. So in the background, Construct 2 has made this asynchronous to where we can add an event handler for when the request finishes. So we can start this request and then forget about it until we handle it in an event here. So we're going to add Ajax and on completed, and this is where we match our tag to what we did previously, so we'll call it read data. So what this is saying is we're going to request the data, and this is when that data is returned. So we can actually access that data through the ajax.lastData field. So we can go into our feedback text and set the text to ajax.lastData, and again this will set it to whatever we read last with the Ajax object. So make sure that you match up these tags appropriately. So let's run this layout. And we should see our numbers. We saw, there it is. So 10, 20, 30, all the way up to 100. So this last data, that's pretty simple, right? To be able to read from the text file to put that, to get that string back. But now we need to separate those individual numbers and put them into an array. So I'm going to add a sub event here, add a sub event, and just like we did in the previous video with for loops, we're going to do a for loop here, so for, excuse me, and I'm going to iterate through, so I'm going to say for each score. We're going to start at 0 and end at 9. That gives us 10 numbers with 0 based indexing for our array. Again, we talked about this in the array video previously. And for each of these items, Construct 2, I talked about this previously as well, it doesn't really give us a good way to keep track of which iteration we're on, at least as far as I can tell. So I'm at a local variable here, and I'll just call it I. It's going to be a number. It'll start at 0. And then each iteration, I'm going to add to that global variable I. I'm going to add 1 to it. So it'll start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we can go into our scores array and we can set at x. And our x value is going to be that y. So that's the iteration that we're on, so 0 through 9. And the value here, we're going to, again, use the Ajax.lastData. But we want to take each individual number in that data and separate those numbers out to be able to put them into our array. So there's a function in here called split, or what is this function called? Give me 1 second. Alright, so the function I'm looking for is token at. And token at takes 3 parameters. If you can see it here, it takes the text that you want to use, the index that you want to get, and then the separator. So we want to use this last data as our text. The index is going to be I, because we want the ith value. And then the separator is going to be that semicolon that we used in the text file. So that's why we use the semicolon to separate the individual numbers. Let's say we're done here, and then I need to make sure I increment I after we go in and get the value at the, or set the value at the array. So if we debug this now, let me pull up Internet Explorer. If we debug this, we should see we still have those numbers there for the feedback text. In the scores array, we've taken that data from the text file, we've requested it, we've received the data, and then we've parsed it to put 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 here. So we can go, let's go one step further, and in my data.text, I'm going to say, not only do I want to have a number, but I want to have a name as well. So let's do this. Let's say I'm going to have, I'm just going to call each of these names James so I can copy and paste them. So James. And so again, think of these as username and score, and you'll probably have hopefully different usernames than just James. But I'm going to add one more separator here to separate think of the username and score tied together. So I want to separate each record of username and score. So I'm going to separate these by the straight up and down bar. So that's what I'm going to use. You can really use whatever you want here to separate them. I just use these because this is not something that you're going to typically use in a text file, so it usually stands alone pretty well. So James 10, James 20, James 30, all the way down, and then we'll close it off with another one. So let's save the text file again. So now I want to go in and make our array 2D. So we'll do the height as 2. And I want to iterate not only through each, let's change this to each record. So we're going to iterate through each record. I'm going to add a sub event here, and we'll do another for loop. Actually, we can just skip the for loop for now. So what we want to do is for each of these records that we get to, we want to do a set at xy, and the 0th index is going to be the name. So that's when we want to do I, so those are x value. We want to do a token at, and we want to still use our Ajax.lastData. And we want to get the ith version, and then we want the separator now to be the, let's see, let's open this up, the record. So each of those records is going to have James and a number separated by semicolons. So since this gets us that whole record, we can actually do another token apt. This might look a little confusing, and take that string that we just got and say we want to get the 0th index, which will be the name, and the second thing will be the separator, which will be the semicolon that we used originally. So I can copy and paste this, and the second one will actually set the y value of 1, and we want to take this first index. So again, this is kind of tricky. So what we're doing is, in this text file, we're first getting this piece. So we're first getting the piece that's separated by the straight up and down bar, which is this. Then we're parsing that the same way we did originally by the semicolon. So if we debug this again, that was really tricky, so hopefully I did this right. In our scores array, we should see now, there it is. So now we've got a 2D array with the name here, James, and then the value of 10. So this could be used for, again, high scores, username and score. So pretty powerful stuff. The idea of reading from a text file is really, really beneficial once you kind of get comfortable with it and learn how to leverage it. And it's pretty simple, right? So to actually get the data is just to make the request and then add the event to handle the request, and then you need to do whatever you need to do with the data. That's pretty simple. The hardest part is really parsing that data, but once you get used to it, you get pretty familiar with it. So that's gonna wrap it up today for using basically the Ajax object and inputting data from the Ajax object from a text file into an array. So stick around for more videos.